Coming up on today's episode, we take a look at the latest religious horror release, The First Omen.
Bad things will start to happen around her. Evil things.
Stay tuned. Welcome to Scary World, where we walk you through the latest and greatest in the world of horror. I am your host, Arturo Padilla.
Hi.
For those of you just joining us, this is a spoiler-free show.
I'm not going to spoil the surprise.
Now that we got that out of the way,
We got some rules around here.
there are 5 categories: production, story, ensemble, horror, and legacy. Each category can score up to 2 points.
Showtime.
Per IMDb, the synopsis goes, a young American woman is sent to Rome to begin a life of service to the church, but encounters a darkness that causes her to question her faith and uncovers a terrifying conspiracy that hopes to bring about the birth of evil incarnate.
Evil dies tonight!
This movie was directed by Arturo Stevenson, and this is her feature film debut, folks, and she did not disappoint. This movie looks great. All the filmmakers, her whole entire team, took great care in making sure everything looked polished and everything looked nice and clean and crisp. All the shots are carefully composed for maximum impact and effectiveness.
You control people who no longer believe. You create something to fear.
The overall package here is top-notch level execution. I am very, very, very impressed with the execution of this movie and how she tackled her first feature through and through from start to finish. Everything looked very good visually. Everything looked very Hollywood and up to par in terms of the budget these studios spend on these movies. And she knew where to put that money. The sound editing is great. The editing overall looks great. This movie is pieced together very well. As I mentioned, the camera work and the camera techniques are very pro-level stuff here, man. As I said before, the shots, they're very carefully framed. They're focused very specifically. It's super duper effective, and it shows what kind of talent Arturo Stevenson has behind the camera. And her crew as well. The talent behind this whole entire movie is top notch. And I cannot say that enough because it takes a village to make a very successful film. And the first piece of that very important village is the crew behind the camera. And they do a fantastic job with this production here. And for that, this movie gets a solid 2 for production. Speaking of It Takes a Village, this script was handled by 3 different people. Top credited was Tim Smith, and then director Arturo Stevenson also had a hand in it, and Keith Thomas also had a hand in it. The very interesting thing about all 3 is that this is the very first time they're all contributing to a feature film. And folks, let me tell you, they did a fantastic job. The story itself was written by Ben Jacoby. He has written a story called Bleed in the past as well from 2015. I haven't seen it, but it looks like another evil pregnancy type of movie, which falls right in line with our conversation today. So back to the script here and the story. It's incredibly well done. The acts flow very well and the pacing is very good. The time just flies right by. The story was carefully crafted in order to properly stitch it to the existing fabric of the Omen universe. And they do a great job making sure that the essence and the aura of this franchise gets elevated. They don't disappoint the roots of this thing. 1976 is The Omen. It has a very good story. This one, folks, in my opinion, is even better. The script does a great job in making sure the viewers, that you and I, stay engaged throughout the first and second acts. They don't give you exposition dumps like in previous religious horror movies, and one of them that we saw just last month, like Immaculate, which gave you a super big expositional dump in the middle, and it dragged everything down. Here, we get sprinkles of exposition throughout the entire movie, and it doesn't drag it down. We get bits and pieces of information that lead to this very awesome third act. The story was captivating. It was engaging. It was something, it was a breath of fresh air, to be honest with you guys. It was a breath of fresh air simply because we're finally seeing a sequel in a franchise that's better than the original. And if you don't think it's better, at least it holds up to that standard of the original movie. For those folks who love the original 1976 Omen, that movie itself is a classic. The second half of that movie was great, but this one, folks, is something special. And for that, this movie gets a solid 2 for story. The entire cast does a solid job with their respective characters.
No, don't!
They make sure to provide adequate support for our protagonist and the star of this movie, Margaret, awesomely portrayed by Nell Tiger Free. Her performance alone carries this entire movie. The supporting cast is your run-of-the-mill, cookie-cutter religious horror cast, but they are solid in terms of they are not detrimental to the overall story. I've seen religious horror movies where the support is absolutely terrible and completely destroys whatever the movie had to offer. But here they do a good job, and they know what their role is and what the responsibility is making Margaret shine, making Nell Tiger Free shine. Her emotional roller coaster was a fun watch, and honestly, this is what this movie needs. This is what religious horror needs. Religious horror is a genre of emotions, of ups and downs, of terrifying scares and unknowns. It's one of my favorite subgenres of the horror genre itself. Nell Tiger Free does a great job when the movie goes and gets tough. She gets going, man. She knows how to turn it up notches and knows how to turn it back down. This is a great performance. For that solid performance we get from Nell Tiger Free, this movie gets a really solid 1 for ensemble. The horror in this movie is deliciously gory, folks. There is blood and gore, and it is super impactful. It is super effective. It is very well executed and just flat out freaking awesome. The blood and gore is mostly practical. There is some CG involved that could have looked slightly better, but it does not take away from the quality or the experience you get from the other practical stuff you get in this movie. The visuals are memorable, they're exquisite, they're haunting. It's everything you want from a religious horror movie. Religious horror is about imagery, symbolism, the fear and suspense that you can build through all that stuff is absolutely paramount, and this movie does it very well.
It's not real. Who said that?
A lot of times when you get a religious horror movie, it fails because it does not build the suspense properly and the tension properly. It doesn't give you the imagery properly. It doesn't transmit the fear of the possibility to the audience. In this movie, you get all that. As in the first and original 1976 Omen, that had very good imagery and symbolism, and that tension and suspense was what really drove that movie. You get that here, plus the visuals, plus the gore, plus the blood. Everything you wanted from a religious horror movie, you get it here. It amps up everything that the original offered, and it's just stunning. And for the awesome, memorable, haunting, exquisite, delicious, decadent gore, this movie gets a powerful, solid 2 for horror. I really enjoyed this movie. From start to finish, I was captivated, I was engaged, I was enthralled with the story, I was in. I dug in the minute this thing kind of started. It did a great job introducing our protagonist, and she was very charming, very likable off the bat. And her performance just kind of sucks you in, and you're in for the wild ride this thing takes you on. As mentioned in the previous section, the optics in this movie are absolutely horrifying and exactly what you would want from a religious horror movie. It really makes this movie shine and elevates it to a level that, like, up here, man, like that, it's super up here. What I love the most about this movie is that it didn't hold back at all, and it offered little tidbits throughout the entirety of the film. You didn't get bored with this thing. And that was most important because this could have been boring. It's not like, The Omen has been good since its inception. The sequels to that movie and the remake are just absolutely not good at all or even worthy of a proper conversation here on Scary World. But this movie, folks, The First Omen, the original story leading into everything, was absolutely worth it. This film is not only the best offering in the franchise, it's one of the best horror films of the year. This is what a sequel is supposed to do. This enhances the aura of the original. It's absolutely great. And for legacy, this movie also scores full marks and gets a 2 for legacy. To tally it up, The First Omen received a 2 for production, a 2 for story, a 1 for ensemble, 2 for horror, and a 2 for legacy, bringing the score to a total of 9. I really could not believe how good this movie turned out. I walked into that theater with very low expectations because, folks, let's be straight. The Omen has not been putting out anything good in terms of quality or watchability since its original. The remake was disgusting and a waste of time, and everything else that came after the 76 original, which is part 2, and then part 3, The Final Conflict, and then the terrible Awakening, which was part 4, waste of everybody's time. I am very happy that this movie turned out so good. It elevates the entire story of The Omen. It elevates the entire franchise itself. It's a rare occasion when a horror movie comes from an intellectual property like The Omen and has another successful outing like this that even goes above and beyond the original. The last time I saw something like that was in 2018's Halloween. And that one just added to the legacy of that franchise and that story as well, just like this movie does. And without spoiling or saying too much, man, this thing will definitely satisfy fans of the original, and I hope you guys enjoy it more than I did. Go watch The First Omen. It is in theaters now, and go watch the rest of the other Omens when you get a chance afterwards. They're all available on Hulu.
Can you tell me what time it is?
And that's a wrap, folks. Thank you for watching Scary World. Don't forget to drop a comment down below and leave a thumbs up on the video. Most importantly, do not forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Tell all your friends, your family, and your pets to come to YouTube. Subscribe to CorpseFeed. We have spoiler-free horror movie reviews for you guys dropping every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And on Tuesdays, stay tuned for the official CorpseFeed podcast, The Morgue, wherever you get your podcast streams. We are there. Do not forget to go to the socials and subscribe to all the feeds as well, because we are there. We will see you on Monday for another episode. And remember, it's a scary world out there, but we are here to walk you through it.
I just wanted to say goodbye.